Hello, everyone. I'd like to invite you to take a seat, and we're going to come to you tonight from the old bear's den of Bigfoot. Tonight we have a special guest that is a very good friend of mine, and he's dealt with Bigfoot for quite a long time. Ever since I do believe he was a little kid. So we're going to do some questions and let him give the answers. And so we're going to get right into that.
Yeah, my name's Paul Phillips. Glad to be with y'all tonight.
Well, Paul, why don't you start us off by telling us how you you learned about Bigfoot? What caused you to know there's a Bigfoot?
Like you said there, I've been dealing with it since I was a little kid. We moved where we're at here now, on Darius Creek in Sissonville, and we started. My mom and dad bought this property in 1980, and there was a lot of things, you know. As a kid, I'd be out in the hollers playing, hunting, even. More so playing till I got a little older, and there's always a lot of strange things. Rocks stacked up in the creek, tree breaks, bends, tree limbs leaned, a bunch of them leaned up against one tree. Big trees, say like 6 and 8 inch in diameter, pulled up by the roots. They was dead, but they wasn't rotten and carried, hard to tell how far, just to have 4 or 5 stacked up in one tree. So until late 97, we started realizing the more publicity of Bigfoot and what things was coming out, you know, what all this stuff actually was. And so then we started being more alert to our surroundings and different things. More to, you know, when the dog barked, because we live very rural, the way the dog barked, the direction she barked in, or the dogs we had barked in, and we would always notice a few days later when we'd go in that direction or over in the holler, whichever way they was barking at, that they would be a tree break, they would be holes dug in the ground. We don't have no hogs here in this area, so it wasn't hogs. We've had tree breaks and things, limbs thrown in our driveway when there was no trees around, no storms to put them there, and some of them was green, 2 and 3 inches in diameter. We would pick them up, you know, throw them out of the road. They was big enough we didn't want to drive a vehicle across. Sometimes 5-6 hours later when we come back home, that same limb would be back in the road again. You know?
Yep.
Just naive, not knowing, not thinking. Well, we just thinking somebody was doing this, you know. Somebody was playing, somebody doing this and that. We've heard over the years, and even a week ago. Like I said, we're very rural. Very rural. There's more houses now than there ever has been in my area, and there's still 200 or 300 acres here that there's still no houses. It's just woods, hay bottom. And we've heard children, sounds like kids talking and playing on top of the ridges and down the hollers, and a few times as close as 100 feet from us in the woods, but certain places around this area has got real dense undergrowth. And them kids, what we thought was kids, was over in that undergrowth. And we was like, well, my God, why in the world they be kids here, you know? It's almost dark. Me and my mom was out mushroom hunting, and it startled us. sometimes the dogs would stay with us, and sometimes they would just run and go back to the house. You know, so we've been dealing with things that we didn't know that they was there or what was causing it, you know.
Right.
So that's a lot of the past history, you know.
Well, at what age did you have that? What you believe to be your first experience
Knowingly?
with Bigfoot?
Knowingly?
Well, not knowingly. You told me of a story when you were before your mom and dad built a house and everything here when you was 4 or 5 years old.
Well, again, that we thought it might have been a bear. So that's at the top of the hill here at my old driveway. Me, my mother and father, and my first cousin and his wife was having a little cookout, like we're, you know, a little weenie roast like we're doing right now. Part of the road just got dozed into my home here now, and it was dark. Far was going down, and you know, we were soon to get in the vehicle and go home, you know, but there was something that rushed us that got within 50 feet of us, shaking trees, grunting. You would think it was a bear, but a bear don't shake 5 or 6 trees coming at you.
Right.
And grunting that way. Well, it scared us pretty good, you know. We all jumped in the vehicle. My dad fired a few rounds, and there was no more sound of something that was like you think a bear would be upset. It would have made you know, it'd have walked off pissed off.
Yeah, it'd have been popping its teeth and everything.
Nothing quiet as not a sound, not a bird, not a chirp, not a sound after that. And in that same spot today, we got a different access road that goes around underneath that access road, that old access road, and right today there's trees there that is pulled up by the root, pulled over and broke at the root, been over in the other trees, you know. So it's like we was disturbing their sanctuary, because they ain't been nobody lived here in where we're at now since the Indians.
Well, when was the first time that you believe you saw a Bigfoot?
About 2002, down here in my just right where we went camping, or we had a bonfire here a few weeks ago.
Right.
I had a 44 Magnum Super Red Hawk. I was shooting 180 grain. That was my self-defense ammo in that pistol, and I was on my porch. Dogs were barking, and it stepped out in the driveway, had its back to me walking, and I took a shot at it, and it just acted like like a mosquito bit it or something. It just shrugged its shoulders and flinched a little bit and kept walking.
Right. Now, let me ask you this: how often do you hear them scream or make a bird sound? What some call the super bird or supersonic bird or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Well, we've heard them ever since we lived here. Some things that we thought was maybe bobcat or mountain lion, because they are in this area. It seemed like a week or two later, Marty Stafford would be on PBS, and you'd be hearing a mountain lion holler or a bobcat mating call, and it sounded nothing like what these things was.
Right.
So it was weird, it was odd, but you know, until, like I said, 97, when stuff started coming out more, or I started researching more, come across it. Me and my mother started realizing that what we was actually hearing, because there was, you know, more awareness to it, I guess, you know, what we was actually hearing.
Right.
I got an audio tape. I got to find it, on my old computer. I hollered for my mom to come out on the porch real quick so she could hear it, and I held my audio recorder up in the air, and it crossed a mountain peak that has a rock cliff on both sides, about a 30-foot drop-off rock cliff straight down, and then it run a track that is right in front of my property where we're sitting out here now, straight across from a campfire. That's 135 acres long, and it done all that, I believe it was like 17 or 18 seconds. And it was screaming and a hollering, standing the hair on the back of your head. And I walked over there probably 3 or 4 days later, me and my dog, and there was a line of trees as long as you could see once you got in that pathway where it was running. 3, 4, and there was one at least 4 inch in diameter, beech tree, hardwood, yanked up by the roots. It was just like a monkey. It was mad, and while it was running, it was just yanking. It was grabbing trees and just yanking them up out by the root. I turned around and come home.
That's understandable.
I didn't stay. I wasn't afraid, but I had a little common sense. I didn't. After I shot that one probably a couple of years before that, and shot it in the back, right shoulder blade, and it just flinched. Well, I didn't figure that either my 44 Magnum wasn't big enough or I just wasn't close enough. So I come back home.
I understand that. I got another question for you. You told me about an instance that happened right here at your house, or right beside your house. Your dog was throwing a fit on the porch, and the dog you got's a pretty good sized dog. She's well mannered. She's a good dog.
Very protective and unsocialized. She don't like strangers.
Right.
And evidently she does not like Sasquatch, because if they get anywhere close to my house, she comes unglued.
Now, you were telling me about that story though that you were talking about. The Bigfoot may have clotheslined itself or something.
Yeah,
give us the details on the wire that you had up.
I got a 1/2 inch, and we walked down and looked at that. It's about a 1/2 inch, ain't it?
Right.
And it's pretty long. I think it's about 150 foot cable, maybe 200, because I got some of it still balled up here. I connected it to a small tree in front of my house, and I run it down to my building, and I had my cousin to climb a ladder and put it about 12 foot up in that tree, and I had it fastened with a marine grade strapping, whatever polymer it is. It don't rot when it gets wet. Lasts for a very long time out in the weather. Got a good deal on it. Bought like a 200-foot roll of it. So it's like it puts you in mind of what your ratchet straps is that you buy at the hardware store, but it's marine grade strapping. It does not rot in the weather. So and it was about 7 at the lowest point, was about 7, maybe 7.5 feet at the most. I could take a stick, reach up, pull slack down, hook my dog onto it. I had a roller. Then that way I could, do my new dogs. I could do some training, give them exercise, on like a zip line is what it is.
Right.
And but like I said, the lowest point was about 7.5 feet. Well, my dog was alert me to somebody was outside. But she was, she got a little different human bark. And I took my 12 gauge and I seen a silhouette, a dark shadow. A little bit, darker than where the dark area was toward my building. So I commenced to putting lead at it, which is only about 75, 80 feet from my house. And the old 12 gauge Brunelli shoots pretty good. I was I was hurting whatever I was hitting. It took off running. Well, evidently, it did not see that half-inch cable I had stretched across that road, and it clotheslined itself. But when it did, the tree that it's connected to down at my building is like 14, 16 inch in diameter, big oak or a big hickory tree. But yet the little tree that I had connected to up here towards my house was probably maybe 4 inch, about a 4 inch hickory tree. Well, it shook that 4 inch hickory tree like Mary you would a sapling, and just grab it and just shake it up, you know, like a little sapling that you would cut to make a wiener stick out of. Just take it and shook it.
How high off the ground was the?
At the lowest point, it was about 7 to 7.5 feet, but about where I think that thing hit the cable at was closer to 8 or 9 foot in the air. And but it clotheslined itself and took it completely off its feet. I heard it hit the ground, hard thump, and then it jumped up, and when it took off running over the hill, it wasn't running over the hill to be quiet. I heard it running over the hill. And as soon as that happened, dog quit barking. Loved around on it, loved around on my dogs a little bit, and it was quiet the rest of the night. But about 3, maybe 4 days later, at the most, I don't think it was actually the next day. I think it was a couple days after it. I walked over to where. To see where that thing had hit the ground and all that stuff. And I'd seen a little flat area, in the leaves. I could tell something had been like something had laid there. So I knew something. So I just assumed that's where it hit. And I got to looking, my cable was down. I thought, man, that thing, the strapping has a 2,000-pound strength. And I went over to the tree. I seen it, looked up towards my house, and it was still connected, but it was on the ground. So I went over to where I had connected it about 12 feet up in the air, and it was broke. The strapping was literally broke like you would rip duct tape. Broke. He didn't, the Sasquatch didn't break it when it clotheslined him. It come back later and ripped it down. And it ripped it down by the strapping. I still got the strapping, pictures of it and all that stuff.
Yeah, we looked at it that one day when I came out.
And the threads, the little strings that's off of it, I can't break that little string. But it's creased in a way that's just like if you would grab duct tape with one hand and squeeze it with your thumb and finger and then rip it. It's ripped the same way.
It'd take a lot of strength to do something like that.
That strapping's 2,000 pounds. I've tried to rip. I got the strapping in my house, and the piece that was on the tree, and I cannot rip it. The only way you could do is cut it.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was 12 foot up in the air, and if somebody would have come through and just cut it, had a long blade on a knife or machete, clumb that tree a little bit to cut it, well, but one side of it wouldn't be crimped like you held it in your thumb and forefinger. It wouldn't be crimped and wrinkled. I mean, it's creased. It was held with tremendous strength, and then just ripped like we would duct tape.
Okay, how, in all the years that you've lived here and you've known that they were here, do they stay here all the time, or do they come and go, or do you believe that they have a home made here somewhere, that somewhere where they winter up, or?
Well, they definitely come and go. Past 2 months now, or a little longer, I've had no activity that I know of. It's been very quiet. My dog's been able to sleep at night. I've been able to sleep through the night, because every time my dog will bark, I will put 2 or 3 12 gauges in that direction. I've got a lot of tree breaks. I got a lot of tree sign, a lot of trees that's been moved within eyesight of my house. They was So they definitely come and go. There's cave systems around Derrick's Creek, Allen's Fork, you know, Spicewood. There's large cave systems that people could get in and live, as far as that goes.
Right.
So yeah, there is definitely places that they can have shelter. You know.
Okay.
And I would imagine they come and go with food source. You know, by them being nomads, whatever, or they probably come and go with the food source. But would you like me to tell you about the time that I had that little incident with that young one last summer? That's it. Okay. But yeah, they come and go. Sometimes they'll stay for months at a time, it seems like, and then.
Now you mentioned an incident with just now about a little one. You said.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a rogue bear. A friend of mine had seen what we thought was a bear a few times, but it was. When he seen it, it was moving too quick really to get a good look at it. When I seen it, moving too quick for me to really get a good look at it too, but it was huge. It was on all fours, 400 plus pounds, maybe around 5. It was huge. Rear end, 3.5 foot wide. If it was a black bear, didn't grow up here, it probably DNR dropped it off, rogue bear or something, whatever, but it was huge. Well,
now the bears, they do travel quite a bit. If it'd been a male, he can travel 20 miles to cover his territory,
or 20 miles in a direction just getting out of his territory.
That's true. If he's getting pushed out, yes.
So you take 2 or 3 nights a week of doing that. A bear could go across a couple counties almost.
Yeah.
So taking all that into consideration, my dog was carrying on, and I shot at it a few times. I thought I hit it, didn't find no blood. Called my friend, he come out. I said, well, probably this be good enough to run that bear off. Well, wasn't a few months later. Nice decent day. I come out behind. I sit out on my property a lot. I come out behind my house and sit down. And squirrels behind my house was losing their mind. 5 or 6 of them just squawking, going nuts. And that just don't happen because they'll come up and almost eat out of my hand, feed them, this and that and the other. Don't hunt them no more. So. I seen what I thought was that bear walking about 50 to 75 feet from me, from left to right. So I pulled my pistol.
Now, before you go any further, could you tell if it was on all fours?
Yes, it was on all fours.
Okay.
Sitting up pretty high too. All fours, its rear end was probably at my waist.
Now, that'd be a pretty tall bear.
It'd be a pretty tall bear. Like I said, its butt pretty wide. And so I was shooting through a bunch of small brush area at my house, and so I went to shoot toward its head. Lead it just a little bit and shoot its head. I pulled off a couple rounds. I heard it scream. All right, it's dead. I'll just let it finish. But when I heard it scream, I also heard it took off running. I could not see if it was running on all fours or if it stood up, but it ran to a 10 o'clock direction, and that's when I knew then it wasn't a bear, because either baby mama or baby daddy picked it up and started screaming and took off running with it faster than any bear could run through the woods. Went over the hill at my house at the point of my property, which there's a gas well. Crossed that steep point, went up the other side of the hill, and screamed a moaning type scream every 11 minutes for between 10 and 12 hours. Every 10, 11 minutes, it let out a moaning scream. Not real loud, but loud enough I could hear it. I could hear it sitting on my front porch.
Right.
And it was probably the way the crow flies straight across the hill, 1,500 feet.
That's quite a bit of a distance.
And I could still hear it clearly.
Well,
And this happened at about 1:30 in the evening. And I come out at midnight. My dog would bark around a little bit, growl. I come out on the porch, and I could still hear that thing hollering. Neighbors' dogs carrying on. Mine just growled a few times, and about 12:30, 1 o'clock was the last time I come out. So that's the reason I said between 10 and 12 hours I heard it hollering.
Right. Okay. So, is there anything else that you can think of that sticks out in your mind about these Bigfoot, or anything that's happened to you?
Yeah,
or anything
we've here in the past 2 years, I've had them to grunt at me, growl at me. Got footprints. Like I said, I've had them to growl at me a couple times. Me just walking my driveway. I know it wasn't no bear.
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't no bear. But yeah, like I said, I've had sticks thrown. When I say sticks, I mean like 2 inch in diameter, 15 foot long. Just you can tell they were just ripped up by the roots somewhere and just throwed.
Okay.
That's happened a lot. And immediately within 50 to 100 feet from my house, my neighbor, I just heard a gunshot go off. My neighbor, their dogs have been carrying on here the last 3 or 4 weeks, and they come out on their property, have to shoot 25, 30 rounds before the dog quit barking. And then it's the same thing I've done here for years. So it's like maybe they're leaving me alone and playing with somebody else for a while.
All right. I would like to thank you for your story tonight, my friend. And I appreciate you giving me the interview. And that will conclude tonight's interview. And I want to thank everybody for coming and listening in. And we greatly appreciate you coming. And if you like the show, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and give me a thumbs up.